This webinar starting now, and we are going live on Facebook. If you had friends or colleagues that might be interested in this topic, feel free to direct them to the Startup Junkie Facebook page where they can tune in on Facebook Live. For those of you who have not met yet, my name is Caleb Talley. I'm the Director of Marketing and Events for Startup Junkie. We're excited for this event. For those of you who may be new to Startup Junkie, excuse me, we are a mission-driven organization based here in Northwest Arkansas with office right here on the Fayetteville Square that supports, inspires, and educates entrepreneurs and innovators by providing no-cost one-on-one consulting, events, workshops, things just like this. Of course, they've been virtual for the past year, but we're going to start working our way into some more future events. I encourage anyone who's interested in the small business entrepreneurial space to check out our website, startupjunkie.org, to look for some of those upcoming events. For example, we have one coming up specifically for women in business. It's a networking hour sponsored by Banco ZK that will be in Springdale. It will be, I think, our first in-person event of the year since last spring. So I encourage everybody to check that out. Come and join us if you'd like. Startup Junkie removes barriers for historically underserved populations by democratizing access to entrepreneurial resources and providing strategic support to any individuals seeking to establish or grow their business. And we're looking forward to today's webinar to learn about banking and small business lending. I mentioned to Martha this morning that I've been listening to Motown hits when I get up and get ready for work in the morning. And this morning, the first song that played was Money by Barrett Strong. So it seemed appropriate for today's webinar. So I'm glad to have y'all. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Martha and let her talk about some of her incredible experience in the banking industry. Martha?
Hello, I'm Martha Londigan, and I'm an executive business consultant here at the Startup Junkie Foundation. And Caleb and I are both actually in the same room. Caleb's right behind me. That's why I have to keep turning my volume down so I don't echo him. And so our offices are located on the second floor of the Pryor Center, which is that big red brick building owned by the University of Arkansas that's on the east side of the Fayetteville Square. And we cover all of Northwest Arkansas. And we also go out into, in fact, I've got several events in June I'm doing out in Harrison, and we go to Mountain Home. And so we are here, never a fee, never a charge for any of our events or our services. So this is our first Meet the Lenders event, and I want to give a little bit of a shout out to Kevin Tillman, who's one of our speakers from Communities Unlimited. When Kevin came into Fayetteville last year, he mentioned this idea, and we thought it was a great idea. And I have some background in banking. My grandfather was on the board of directors of Arkansas State Bank in Siloam Springs, Arkansas, my entire childhood. When I was a practicing attorney, I'm still a licensed attorney. My biggest client when I was in Northeast Oklahoma for 7 years was the First National Bank of Veneta. And then I represented some Arkansas banks over in Oklahoma also. And then a few years ago, I was a small business banker at a community bank in Springdale, Arkansas called Legacy National Bank, and worked with their SBA lending team. So all of these lenders and bankers that are going to speak to you today that I'm about to introduce, each of them I know personally, and as someone who works with very small business owners, I actually sometimes have business owners say, man, I don't know, I'm kind of nervous about going in and talk to a bank. Well, I think I'll just get one of those online bank accounts. And so honestly, I like for people to know that just like, you know, lawyers and doctors, bankers are real people, and they'll have real conversations with you. And so I think we have a really great assortment. I'm going to go through the list right now, and each of you are speakers. When you hear your name, wave. So I want to tell people just for a second who's here and what type of lender they are. And then I'm going to go back and let each lender introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about their lending institution and what they do and why they're here and what their interest is in small business. So Alvin Singh, Alvin, if you'll wave. Alvin works with me and our Northwest Arkansas Kiva Hub, and he is our program associate with that, and he will tell you about it in a minute. Kevin Tillman, Kevin, if you'll wave. Kevin is coming to us from Fayetteville, Arkansas, and Kevin is a small business lender with Communities Unlimited. And then Bree Cook. Bree is coming to us from Huntsville, Arkansas, with a lender called Forge, and I'll let her tell you a little bit about Forge and its lending program. And Forge lends throughout the state, not just in Huntsville. That's why she's here. You don't have to live in Huntsville to get a loan from Forge. Ryan Dagley, Ryan, if you'll wave, is with Signature Bank. He's coming to us today based out of Bentonville, but he'll tell you about their other locations. Tanya Mims is here with us today, and she is with First National Bank of NWA at the Fayetteville location today, out in Uptown. And Audwin Vaughn, Audwin, if you would say hello. Audwin is with Bank OZK, and Audwin is the market president for our Northwest Arkansas region. So that's the plethora. We have everything from very small microloans with Kiva that are only 1,000 to 15,000 to medium size to multiple location, multiple state bankers with us today. So I think I will kick it off. And Alvin, if you would tell everyone for about 5 minutes about our Northwest Arkansas Kiva microloan program.
Sure, no problem. Thanks a lot, Martha. Y'all can hear me pretty well. So my name is Alvin Singh, and I am the program associate with the NWA Kiva Hub, like Martha said. And what it is an extension actually about myself personally. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and my background is in digital media and marketing, and also just entrepreneurship, period. This is something that I've kind of followed with me all throughout my life. And what was fascinating with this is because I knew about Kiva internationally, which is a quick nonprofit that's pretty impressive globally. I mean, they've already funded close to $1.9 billion in lends to a lot of small business owners. They have 1.9 million borrowers that are all part of it. And it's just a very fascinating, by doing something as small as a $25 loan can change a lot, whole business trajectory. So that's what overall what Kiva does. And what we do specifically here in Northwest is a partnership that we've had that's been supported by the Walton Family Foundation, which is doing a dollar for dollar match. So whenever we have a Kiva entrepreneur that goes live on the international website, and the minute that they're going into their fundraising, there's a dollar for dollar match with the Walton Family Foundation, which has been very helpful because we've seen some of our campaigns getting funded from 4 hours to 24 hours to 4 days. Not all of them about that fast, but it's pretty fast. We have a pretty good track record, so that's really good. And that has to do with the support in the community of people who give not give, but they lend $25. So that's a real important word. I want to kind of make sure that it's, even though Kiva is a nonprofit, these are not donations, they're loans. So when you loan to an entrepreneur, you are getting a repayment back for that loan. And Kiva's track record, again, has had a 96% repayment rate globally. So it's a proven track record that this works. With our program, from starting as a $25 loan that you can give to a business, then that entrepreneur can use that fund to get equipment. We see some of them are using it towards advertising, or they're getting websites, or just more inventory, period. And what that does is that gives them, an extra boost, especially during the COVID-19 era, where it's been helping a lot of entrepreneurs who were just 1 or 2 months away from closing their doors. So we've seen tremendous amount. We've got 37 funded here. Fascinating entrepreneurs, from the first Marshall Lee's food truck in Arkansas to the first Latin-owned Snap-on franchise. It's just fantastic stories that I hope to share, with me and the work that me and Martha are doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Alvin. And next, I'd like Kevin Tillman, who's a business lender with Communities Unlimited, to tell you all about what Communities Unlimited does in Northwest Arkansas and in the region.
Good morning. Good morning, Martha. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you to all the attendees and the lenders who agreed to join this panel. I'm very excited to be here with you all. So I'm Kevin Tillman. I work as a small business lender with Communities Unlimited. We're based out of Fayetteville, Arkansas, but we actually service a 7-state region with our water and wastewater and commercial loans. We expand economic opportunity to a lot of rural and underserved communities by providing that access to capital. One of our best services is actually our flexibility in our loan structuring and loan packaging. We make loans up to $100,000, and we've even made loans as small as $600. You know, so we try a lot to meet our borrowers where they are and remain flexible in that packaging. Something that makes us unique is that we actually have an internal entrepreneurship team and internal management consultants. So they'll actually assist businesses with strategic planning, marketing, financial modeling, and everything that goes into packaging a loan or providing technical assistance. You don't have to be a loan client with Communities Unlimited to take advantage of our technical assistance team and our entrepreneurs. Again, I'm really excited that you all joined us today. I'm excited to see other lenders and kind of show the community a united front of their financing options, whether it be a Kiva fund, a CDFI, or a larger commercial bank. So again, thank you all.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, next I'd like for Tanya Mims. Tanya is a community president for First National Bank of NWA, and she's coming to us from her office in Fayetteville today. Tanya?
Thank you for including me, Martha. It's an honor to get to join you guys on this mission to help empower innovators and entrepreneurs in our area. I do work with First National Bank of NWA, and our bank group was organized in 1872. So we do have a long history of being a community bank that focuses on serving our community and also can be unique and cutting edge at times. Our CEO is now 5th generation in his family to lead our bank group, which is almost $2 billion, but we can still operate as a smaller community-minded company that focuses more on relationships than transactions. And so that's one of the things that I like about it. I know that you wanted us to talk a little bit about our commercial services and business banking services on the deposit side. We do have plenty of numerous business accounts, one that's a free account for small businesses. We offer cost-effective solutions for accepting card payments to thousands of merchants across the U.S. Our cash management associates can develop an effective solution for your business to help your business maximize its earning potential. And then on the loan side, we've got a lot of different options that would help with short-term or long-term needs. If you are wanting to fuel your company's growth, then we could do a term loan for something like business expansion, purchasing equipment, or other long-term capital requirements. Because your family business and the cash flow of that business can vary through that cash cycle, then maybe a working capital line of credit could be used to help finance accounts receivable or purchase inventory or other business purposes, like maybe if there's a gap in receipt of the timing of your income, then a line of credit could be very helpful for that. If you're thinking about purchasing a facility or you need to expand your existing facility, then we could do a real estate loan for you, which would be a good resource to help with that type of need. And if your bank thinks that your business is too risky to lend to, then perhaps an Fba loan might be helpful. They add a level of guarantee that can help banks get more comfortable with certain loan requests. And so an Fba loan would be something that we would consider and a good product for a lot of small businesses. You know, each business is different and has different needs. And so sometimes conventional types of financing won't meet all your needs. And I feel like we have a lot of specialized lenders with diverse backgrounds and a wide range of experience. I know Martha wanted us to talk a little bit about approaching your lender and some things that we're looking for. And I would say my biggest advice to customers is that I highly recommend doing a one-on-one consult with Startup Junkie and Arkansas Small Business and Technology Center. They are specialists in getting a borrower ready to present their request. I mean, they will help put together something that is professional and organized, and it is inclusive of everything that we're looking for in that packet. And so that's my number one. We want to see a well thought out, detailed business plan that includes all the numbers that back it up. And I know ASBTC and Startup Junkie can advise you on getting that together. They have access to cutting edge market research. It is amazing. And that statistic that you'll get from them, or those statistics you'll get from them, are what we're looking at to see that you've got those numbers to back up what you're projecting in your business plan. And then I guess lastly, I would say that for sure businesses are going to benefit from the special attention that normally comes from community banks. It's vital to get to know your commercial lender. I recommend that you sit down with them and get to know them and develop a relationship with them. Ask questions. Ask if they've made loans in your specific industry before, and what worked well and what didn't work well, and which ones survived and thrived, and what do they think made that unique and made it work so well. Iron sharpens iron, so just brainstorm with them, and also ask them to be a connector for you. You know, what other customers do they know that could be interested in your mission, interested in your business, and potentially a good customer for you. That's it.
All right, thank you, Tanya. All right, next, and I want to shout out those of you who are listening on Facebook Live. We've got quite a few I can see. Feel free to drop questions in there. Our team will monitor those, and then we're watching the questions that might come in on chat. So we're going those. If some of you have just come in with us, I know people hop in and hop out. So right now we're just introducing our panel of lenders and speakers that are going to talk to you about lending in Northwest Arkansas. And then after that, I'm going to ask the panel some questions, and they're going to give you some tips and ideas for seeking a small business loan. And then we're going to have a time at the end where we'll read the questions that are dropped in the chat and the Facebook Live. So I like to always remember not everybody's here right when we start. So I'd like to say hello to everyone. If you came in late, we're going through the introductions of our lender speakers, and then we're going to have some questions and answers too. So next, Bree Cook, who's coming to us from Huntsville with Forge Lenders. Bree, if you would introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Forge.
My name is Bree Cook, and I've been with Forge for almost 10 years, and we are located in Huntsville, Arkansas, but like you said before, we don't just serve the Huntsville area, so that's nice. I'm the loan manager here at Forge, so I am involved in the main part of the loan process, in the funding process. We are the oldest revolving community loan fund in Arkansas, and our mission is to promote economic development by linking our investors with our borrowers and low-income groups with basic affordable credit that they can't go maybe elsewhere to get. So we try to meet this mission by making small business loans to underserved markets across the state and the region. We recently went statewide, also have, I believe, 18 counties in Southwest Missouri that we serve, 12 counties in Northern Louisiana, and 3 in Eastern Oklahoma. So over the years, we have definitely grown, and there is a need for small business startup lenders. So as a nonprofit, we are a 501c3. We do provide access to affordable capital and business development services also to small businesses and ag organizations that are financially viable, but otherwise might have difficulty getting loans from capital banks or other conventional lenders. So we've been around since 1988 and hope to be around and help serve the communities for quite a bit longer.
Okay, thank you, Bree. And our last, nope, not last, we've got two more. So our next lender banker that I would like to introduce himself is Ryan Dagley. He is an Executive Vice President Loan Manager with Signature Bank here in Northwest Arkansas. So Ryan, if you would introduce yourself and your lending institution.
Yeah, thank you, Martha. Thank you, Startup Junkie. I think this is great. Great asset for the small business community. I think it's the lifeblood of our economy. So thank you guys for putting this on. And thank you for everybody that's introduced yourself so far. It's very interesting to hear all the different takes. So I'm part of the Bentonville Signature Bank team. We have 3 lenders up here as well as myself. We do all different kinds of lending. We're part of Signature Bank, which is at about $850 million in asset lender. We are a full service commercial bank. We've got teams just like mine in Rogers, Springdale, Fayetteville, and then also in Brinkley, Arkansas. So each of our lenders will do anything from your commercial loans to your personal residence loans. So we are full service from that angle, and we take pride in taking care of the customer from a holistic standpoint. I think what's unique about Signature Bank, and I've worked here for about 13 years now, is that we continue to have a local autonomy. We live with the small business owners. We see them at our kids' baseball games. We see them at our kids' schools, church. We understand what they're going through. And so having that local decision making from my standpoint has been such a great resource. And as somebody that grew up in Bentonville, I can help with people I grew up with and known for a very long time as they go along their journey in small business. And it's a very difficult journey at times, and it's good to have the local decision making to be able to partner with them fully. We are full service, like I said, anything from treasury management to lending to deposits to personal residence, mortgage lending, and anything in between that we can take care of. So that kind of gives a summary of us. Thank you, Martha.
All right, thank you, Ryan. And next, I would like for Audwin Vaughn, who is the market president for Northwest Arkansas for Bank OZK, to introduce himself. Tell us where you're coming from today, Audwin, and tell us about Bank OZK.
Thanks, Martha, and also thanks, Kevin, for having this idea. Great idea. Martha, I'd like to thank you and, of course, Startup Junkie for hosting this event. It's very needed, I think, in the community, and we love partnering with Startup Junkie. And we've worked together before, and we've always come away feel like we've benefited from the partnership that we've been able to work together with. For me, I just want to say hello to everyone. I am the market president for Bank OZK here in Northwest Arkansas. We're a little bit different perspective. Again, that's why I love this, is seeing all different sides, facets of this. But we're a $27 billion plus banking organization that has 250 locations and located in multiple states. And from our perspective today, though, what you need to know is that we've got 13 offices located up here in Northwest Arkansas. We've got some expert bankers who work and live and breathe working with small businesses every day. I've been with the bank for now almost 12 years, and it's just it's been an amazing ride, and been able to work with customers. And I think the key word that Tanya mentioned earlier was relationships. Even though we're large, you think, well, they're large or disconnected, they wouldn't be able to know me, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Our very core is our heritage was built on as a community bank and connecting with customers, and it all starts with listening, being an active listener, being engaged, understanding, to me, their business, their trials, what they're going through. And so that's, to me, that's the fun part, is going and meeting with the clients, understanding their business, and then trying to work as a financial partner. So we strive hard to do that. And that's one of the biggest enjoyments that I have, Martha, and for the rest of you, is to sit down one-on-one with clients and understand what they have going on. We work with small businesses every day, and yes, we can do a $500,000 or $5 million line of credit that is secured by a borrowing base, where we're taking inventory and accounts receivable and things like that, where we're monitoring it closely. But that's not the everyday. Our everyday is the customer who's starting out, maybe been in business for a short period of time and wanting to grow. And that's what we're excited about, is trying to partner with.
All right, thank you, Odwin. All right, for the next part of our presentation, to help everyone start getting to know the bankers, I'm going to ask a question, and then I'll just holler out the first name of each lender and have you give a little answer to us about these two questions that I think are questions I hear from the hundreds of small business owners or want to be entrepreneurs that we work with at the Startup Junkie Foundation. And I appreciate everyone's kind words about Startup Junkie and the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center, which is also here in Fayetteville. The director of their program is a former banker also. And so I really encourage people to talk to someone who has either had a small business loan or who's been a banker or who knows about it before you go and talk to the bankers. I think it's a good idea for you to learn some of the jargon. Like, sometimes people don't know what collateral means. Collateral is the stuff that the bank gets to put a lien on to have some security about the loan if it fails. I think it's a good idea for small business owners to understand that just because you got a home loan a few years ago does not mean that you're automatically going to be able to get a business loan, and it's probably not going to be at 3%. So there are different worlds to lending, and there are different rules, and you need to get a little education about the fact, especially after the horrible recession we had in 08 and 09, all of our lending institutions, be they small lenders or banks, have a lot of federal and state regulations. If they do SBA lending, they have checklists and boxes of documents that they don't have any decision-making power over. They have to have that document. They must have this signed. They must ask these questions. So I think it's really helpful if any of you are thinking about approaching a bank or a lender for your first business loan, to have a conversation with someone who's been through that process to understand it, and not think, well, boy, they sure are asking for a lot of stuff, or why are they asking me these personal questions? And just to understand that before you go in and have those first conversations, it saves everybody a lot of time. And then lastly, I want you to really get to know all of these different sizes and types of lenders, because say you're not ready yet, or you don't have the documentation or the collateral yet for a traditional bank loan, you might go to one of these alternative lenders like Kiva or Communities Unlimited. But I'm still really going to encourage you to go open that business bank account at a local community bank, like one of these that are on here today. It makes me nervous. I'm not saying the world's going to end and it's a terrible thing to have an online bank account, but I'd really rather you not do that. So talk to your bank if you don't have one. We have a whole list here at Startup Junkie of all the Northwest Arkansas community banks who are interested in small business lending, and that we know have real people who will help them set up checking accounts and get ready for a business loan someday. And if you are on here and you're a bank and you don't know if you're on that list, reach out to us. We just like to talk to everybody and make sure you love small business as much as we do, and then we're most happy to put you on that list. All right, so the first question I'm going to ask all of our panelists is, what is the biggest challenge you think faces small business owners in trying to obtain capital loans or lines of credit today? And what's a little piece of advice you could maybe give them to help them get ready for that? And so I'll go through so everybody's not jumping in and trying not to interrupt each other. Let's start back. Alvin, Alvin Singh, who's with our Kiva program. Alvin, what do you think is the biggest challenge that people face that causes them issues with getting a loan?
Wonderful question. I think one of the biggest challenges is as all entrepreneurs, they're juggling a lot of hats. So you're wearing a marketing hat, you're wearing a sales hat, you're wearing a legal hat. And I think one of the biggest kind of hurdles for a lot of people is actually good accounting and having a system that they can present to someone else. So, accounting is good for you, for your own internal ways or how you collect receipts or, if it's paper or if it's still, Microsoft Words or if you're using QuickBooks. But you want to have an accounting system or documents that you can share with your lenders so that the process is able for them to be, easier. One of the things I remember you telling me, Martha, was from your experience of working at the bank was it was almost the same amount of time for a larger loan as if you were to do a smaller loan. And so one of the things is to help, entrepreneurs who are, coming from these underserved areas and communities is to get that kind of solidified first is what I would say as one of the main hurdles. And that's actually the solution at the same time is to, if you find yourself scrambling on trying to get everything to tell your story or to present something to a bank or institution, then try to have that paperwork and those things aligned and set up. And with Fba Loan, you can prove that, hey, I did not have a lot of collateral, but I was able to pay this loan. And this is the proof from that. And this is what I have from it, and I think that's one of the keys from that.
Okay, thank you, Alvin. Next, Bree Cook with Forge. Bree, what would you say is one of the biggest challenges that you see, especially first-time small business borrowers?
I think a lot of people struggle sometimes in the very beginning just with filling out the applications and educating themselves with the paperwork, like you said before, that we require for collateral or the business plans. And so getting that in the beginning is really important to us because then that helps us understand what they actually want the loan for. And if they've been responsible in the past and they have things that they own that they can use for collateral. We try to keep our applications really simple. And we just want people to explain to us what they're going to use the money for. And sometimes that's the hardest part to get out of people coming to a loan for us because they don't know right away because they're just starting out. So I think filling out the application for us is one of the big hurdles. I don't know if there's somebody like the ASB TDC or even their local SBA that can help them out with that. Even sometimes going to the accountants and looking for advice from them. Or calling us here too, because we are more than happy to help them or walk them through the process of filling out the application. But I think the application for us is the big one.
Great. Yes, applications can be a bit overwhelming if you've never filled out a commercial loan application. And yes, that's something, all these resources we're talking about after this, if anyone has any questions and wants to figure out who can help them and where in Northwest Arkansas, you can always start with us here at Startup Junkie. Book an appointment with us on our website, and I don't feel like I have done my job if I talk to someone and I'm the only person that gives them advice. Our number one goal is to connect you to every resource in Northwest Arkansas that is available. And so yes, I help people a lot understand the loan process. I know the ASB TDC, they actually have staff that will help people make cash flow projections. Their staff is about 3 times the size of ours. And so they have U of A students, they have consultants who will actually help people make their cash flow projections. So reach out to us at any time as we talk about these resources in Northwest Arkansas, and I will send you specific website addresses, emails, and names to get in touch with folks. All right, Audwin Vaughn with Bank OZK, would you answer that question for us? What you think is one of the biggest early challenges facing businesses and trying to obtain capital?
Yes, Martha. I think one of the biggest challenges starting out is something I just call having an unproven track record. Stages, once you've been in business 6 months, you're looking 6-month track record of what you've been able to do, accomplish as a business. Once you've been in business for 3 years, you've got now a 3-year track record. And so we as bankers love to see historical numbers and how have you been able to grow your business, or how did you survive the pandemic, and what did your numbers look like? So overcoming someone that's just starting out, that's 6 months or brand new, that doesn't have that track record, and you could also throw in there the other 2 things that sort of lump in there with that would be, no or limited collateral and limited liquidity. Those are, to me, those are the essence of what you're trying to deal with and try to overcome when you're starting out. And what we do, our advice is to come to us, let's sit down and talk about it and understand the situation, what you're wanting to do. But we utilize SBA. We've got a government guaranteed lending division that focuses on nothing but doing SBA lending, and that includes the different programs, the 7A or the 504 program, and they just are, they bring in that extra layer when we can't maybe do one just straight up as a bank deal. We get them involved, and they can help overcome any of those weaknesses or potential weaknesses on a new application or a new business. So that's where we would go. That's where our advice would be. But even if you take it one step further back from that, is we're going to point them back to Martha, to Startup Junkie, or the Arkansas Small Business Technology and Development Center. We're going to point them back there to get started, because they need to have those conversations at the very core, at the very beginning. I've done done seminars with Martha before, and she is so great about thinking about all aspects of starting a business. It's not just starting it on the back of the napkin. There's a lot of thought and things that need to be considered. So that's sort of what my suggestion would be and advice.
All right, great. Thank you, Audwin. And next, I'd like Ryan Dagley with Signature Bank to tell us what you see as one of the biggest challenges today facing folks in obtaining small business loans, be it their first one or a growth one.
Yeah, absolutely. Great answers by everybody too. I couldn't agree more. Accounting, track record, everything would certainly go into it. And 12 months ago, I probably would have said the same on the biggest concern, but I think with the uncertainty we have now and the way it was heading anyway with online retail resources and everything like that, the world's changing so quickly. And I think telling your story to your lender is becoming more and more important, and not just what you want to do right now, but where you see your industry going in the future. Kind of having an understanding, and I know Startup Junkie is a perfect resource for this, and they did not pay me to say that. But having a SWOT analysis, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, I think it's important to do that homework. If not before you meet with your lender, at least sit down with the lender, help us understand. We're looking at all different types of businesses every day. We love to do it, but we don't necessarily know the ins and outs and where your industry is going. And so I think the biggest threat today is just understanding that and your future, and where you get in, where the small businesses fit in the economy. There's no doubt they're going to be a huge part of the economy forever, in my opinion. I think it's just, can you adapt? And hopefully things don't change as quickly as they did in the last 12 months, but I don't think we can all rule that out. And so as well as the accounting and everything, I think having a plan the best you can, and understanding the terminology. I think somebody mentioned that earlier, which I just love to hear. But that's kind of where I would go with it, Martha, is just the uncertainty and helping us understand it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ryan. And I'm getting ready to type in. Everyone can see we've had someone ask a question about a certain type of SBA loan program, and I'm going to type in an answer there in just a second. Next, I would like for Kevin Tillman with Communities Unlimited. Kevin, tell us what, in your experience as a Northwest Arkansas lender, is a big challenge you see for some of your small business borrowers coming to you, especially those for the first time.
Well, before I go into my answer, I would just like to co-sign everything that Bree said. Maybe this is a CDFI specific problem, but I mean, you want to be detailed on your applications. You know, you want to provide full transparency when you're going in for a loan, because that's how we establish that relationship and that partnership with you, and get to know you, get to know the person behind a potential loan. So I just wanted to co-sign that before I got started. Honestly, I would say one of the biggest issues is just understanding the risk associated, you know, with your industry, and also understanding the risk that the lender is about to take on when considering, you know, making a loan to your business. So, for example, like Ron said, there's so much uncertainty with what we've dealt with the pandemic and everything over the last year. So, June of 2020 would not have been a great time to consider starting a restaurant, you know, with limited seating and capacity. So I would just say, understand the industry, try and have a thorough understanding of the risk that's associated with the loan. And then I think each lender mentioned this, but show ways that you're able to mitigate the risk that the lender is about to take on. So if you have collateral, be sure and mention that, you know, consider pieces of equipment or used vehicles or pieces of land that you may own. That way, going in, the lender is knowing that the loan is going to be collateralized. So it's not a huge risk for us. So yeah, I would just say to borrowers out there, just try and do your homework, you know, and everything that you're taking on before completing that application. But yes, yeah, again to Bree's point, sorry, be sure and be transparent on the application as well before we get to the risk. So
yes, 100% honesty. And sometimes I have conversations with people, and that's sometimes you might be a little more comfortable coming to talk to me first. Because, you know, I have conversations with people. I say, you know, if you're seeking an SBA loan, there are sometimes some issues with felony convictions. Let's talk about that. I can tell you my experience. There's all different types of felonies. Sometimes there's a piece of paper that can help with that, and sometimes there's not. So, you know, find someone you trust to have some of those conversations with. But I can also tell you, the bankers, they're not going to be judgmental. They're not going to be mean to you because maybe you have a 20-year-old felony conviction for, you know, pot possession when you were a teenager in California. You know, so there's a lot of personal things that come up about lending, and there are rules. And so talk to folks. But everyone here, I know on this panel today, is more than happy. We're all people. They don't make loans to robots, and they're not robots making loans. So, you know, feel comfortable to have those conversations with your business consultant or your banker. All right. So Tanya Mims with First National Bank NWA. Tanya, what do you see as the biggest challenge facing especially first-time small business borrowers right now?
I would say the biggest is that they seem to have a very hard time finding time to run their business. I'll echo what Alvin said about how they're having to wear so many different hats and trying to be excellent at so many different things. But the time to run the business, and then it seems there are often times where their finances might fall through the cracks. Maybe in some situations they aren't as comfortable with the financing aspect of it, and so that might tend to be put off. And so to alleviate that, I would say definitely develop a great relationship with a good local banker, or again, a trusted advisor like those that we've been talking about here, and somebody that's going to give you honest feedback, and you're not going to be sensitive. You're going to take that honest feedback and appreciate it, and someone that's going to be a resource to you, and even a connector, you know, somebody that's going to help give you those connections. And then the other most common, I would say, would be insufficient cash flow to support the loan amount requested. That definitely comes up a lot, and that advice is going to vary depending on the business type and the customer's overall financial picture. We might, you know, throw out tips like send invoices right away, or look at strategies to get customers to pay faster, or maybe increase pricing. Look again at how to get your operating expenses down. Perhaps you've overdone it on inventory, you know, let's look at that. Those are all things that we might suggest, but definitely sit down with Startup Junkie, ASBTC, or your banker, and let's talk about those.
Great, thank you, Tanya. And I'm going to throw in just something from spending the last 9 years working with small business owners, having been a lawyer that did foreclosure, bankruptcy, and collections for a major Northeast Oklahoma bank. Just, you know, something that's kind of a hard conversation for people to understand is nobody funds an idea. All right, there's no such thing. So I tell people, like, have you watched Shark Tank? Yes. Have you ever seen someone just walk on Shark Tank in a t-shirt and jeans and say, hey, I have an idea, y'all give me some money? No, that's not the way it happens. All right. So small business lending involves risk. What can you do to make a lender, or like on Shark Tank, an investor want to risk giving money to you? All right. So one of the number one ways is to have started that business small and be able to show them that people or businesses, if you're doing B2B, want your product or service. And that doesn't have to be getting a $500,000 loan to open a store and hoping people will come. I can give you story after story of where I have worked with small business owners, entrepreneurs, who started making stuff in their garage. And then they went to flea markets, or they went to farmers markets, or then they did pop-up events with stores, and then they started a website. All of those things are building proof to mitigate the risk that someone is going to pay you money for your product or service. So it's a hard conversation, and I think people don't quite pay attention enough that even on like Shark Tank, which looks like, you know, this big wonderful world that I can tell you is real. Startup Junkie had a client we sponsored a few years ago, a casting call for Shark Tank, and Sophie Overton at age 14 from Bentonville, Arkansas, got an offer from the Sharks. But Sophie had been working on those socks and making them and testing them and selling them at fairs and to her friends and family for years before she got a final product. For years. She had gone to pitch contests. She saved her birthday money. Her family invested their own funds, several $1,000s, and she proved that she had a product and that people wanted it. And that's when she was the only person from Northwest Arkansas to make it to Shark Tank. But that is the same concept for banking, and it's even different with banks because, listen, let me tell you something. My advice is get a loan from a bank or a lender instead of an investor, because the bank doesn't want to own your business. The bank doesn't want your collateral. What the bank wants is for you to make your loan payment every month. And if you make your loan payment every month and you grow your business, they will help you continue to grow it. And so, you know, personally, the less somebody owns a piece of my business, my husband and I have a small business, and we had a business once with a partner. My advice to you is the less partners, the better. I'd much rather have a banker loaning me money than a partner giving me money and then telling me what to do with my business. So get to know the different terms and the different realms of lending that's in the world. All right, so my last question today is, this can be the gamut. This can be personal, more of a personal level, or it can be more a factual with lending practices and regulations. But I'm going to ask each banker, what is the number one piece of advice you have right now as we're emerging from a national crisis? We're also seeing a lot of growth going on, which is all kind of crazy. What's the number one piece of advice you have as a lender or a banker or a loan manager to any business owner about how to run their business today? Me, I'm going to tell you, make sure you have a good website that has all of your information on it and is easy to use. Please, you would not believe how many businesses still have no website or terrible websites. So that's my piece of advice for you. All right, so let's start. We'll go back. Let's start with Bree. Bree, what's your number one just piece of advice for a business owner today?
We have a lot of people come in who already have their business started, and they've been in business for maybe a year, and they've made so much money in this first year, and they just want to spend it all and get bigger and better and move to a bigger building and move it out of their garage. But they can't put the financials together to actually prove that it'll work. And with the smaller businesses that we tend to deal with, I think slower is better in a sense, from what we've seen, because we do see a lot of people come in here and try to get big, and we may fund them again. And then there's problems. It just doesn't all click. So I like to see slow growth in the small businesses that we deal with here at Forge. And keeping in contact with the lenders also helps a lot throughout the duration of the loan. You know, we don't loan you the money just to loan you the money and then you're gone. You know, we like to keep in contact and come visit and see how the business is expanding and growing. So forming a relationship with the financial institution that you use is always good as well. It always made me feel better when I needed to go back and ask for questions. I felt like I had a really good relationship because I kept in contact with them.
Great, thank you, Bree. All right, Kevin Tillman, what's your one piece of advice for somebody running a business right now?
Okay, so the one piece of advice that I would give entrepreneurs right now is to try and start small. So try and start out of your garage, try and start out of your home, and just establish a need and a demand for that business before you attempt to grow. You want to be able to show lenders that there's a need for this product or service, whether it be a local need, a regional need, or a national need. But a lot of people try and start too big, and they may get approved for a loan, but that loan could affect the long-term cash flow for that business. So just try and start small, develop a track record for the first 6 months or a year, and then think about your growth plans. And secondly, two-part to that question, I would say try and like crowdsource your funds. You know, so many entrepreneurs have this, I'm gonna do it on my own mindset. I can take on this entire risk. Use your friends, use your family. These people, you know, they support you, they care about things that you're passionate about. So try and, you know, crowdsource those funds. That way, instead of a $50,000 loan, you're looking at maybe a $30,000 loan or a $40,000 loan, and you're not taking on as much risk. So that would be my piece of advice right now to entrepreneurs. I hope it's helpful.
Thanks, Kevin. Ryan with Signature Bank. Ryan, what's your one just piece of advice as a banker in today's climate for small business owners or someone looking to start a business?
Yeah, so Martha, I think I'm going to probably make everybody's eyes roll because it's going to be banker talk, but I think having a good accounting system, Alvin alluded to it in the last question, having a good accounting system, having a general understanding of accounting, I think goes a long ways when you're making decisions. And I'm not talking just that's what the bankers ask for is the numbers. I think when you're, for example, buying a new big piece of equipment, what does it look like? How much do you have to produce to pay for that? What if it doesn't work out? What does your business look like paying for that without that extra revenue? I think if you have a good system in place, it's not a whole lot of time. I think you'd be surprised when you could look at the numbers and kind of crunch those and sit down with them and understand them. So I know it's not the most exciting piece of advice and certainly something a banker would say, but I do think it just having that general understanding of accounting goes a long ways. Even if you have to take 6 months to learn it, there's so many resources out there to do it. But if you're going to run your company for 10 to 20 to 30 years, having that understanding going in is going to go a long ways. And I think save a lot of headaches in the future for you. So.
Yes, that's great advice. It's you know, the unsexy part of owning a business is knowing the numbers. But if you don't know your numbers, you don't have a business. You know, and I tell people, I say, someday when you're rocking and rolling and you're rich and famous, you can hire people to do that for you. But once again, you don't want to not know your numbers. You don't want to turn the most important part of your business over, which is your numbers, your cash flow, your accounting system, and not be able to go in there and do it yourself and figure it out and run the reports. I will tell y'all how shocked I am sometimes to have meetings with people who've been in business 2, 3, 4 years, and I ask them what their break even is, especially if it's a brick and mortar store or a large scale service business. I'll say, what's your business break even each month? And they'll go, I don't know. Because in Northwest Arkansas, sometimes businesses take off quickly, they explode. And so we need to have an accounting system and have that in place before we even launch, so that you know the answer to that. It's important to know your numbers and know your books, because without your numbers and your books, your business isn't going to exist, and it's certainly not going to be able to get capital funding to grow. All right, so let's see. Next, I'm not paying attention to my list good. One piece of just general advice, Tanya Mims, what would you like to say to our audience? What's just one personal piece of advice, or what you'd like to see for our business owners right now going into 2021?
I would say that I think many newer startup businesses have problems and fail because they don't properly plan ahead, budget, and then the big one, hold themselves accountable to stick to that plan. We recommend being a visionary to look forward and plan for unexpected expenses that are going to come up. When you do plan out your strategy for growth and you plan out how you're going to deal with the unexpected things that are going to happen, then you're going to save money. Because if you don't, then you'll end up making a knee-jerk reaction, and you're going to be in a time crunch, and inevitably those decisions end up costing you more money. So I would say, have some periodic reviews with your banker and go through these things and have that plan and stick to it. Be accountable to yourself to stick to it, and this can help you make adjustments going forward for those things that are going to come up.
Yes, thinking ahead. We have to stop and take the time to do that. And that's hard. And sometimes it's scary. It's scary when we're just worried about getting through today, but future planning, forecasting. And that's why I love working with startups and having the positive of, we need to help you get 3 years of cash flow projections together. We're going to be looking at the future now. And sometimes that scares people a little bit, but that's part of, you've got to be able to project and look to the future. Audwin Vaughn, what's one piece of advice as a person who works with hundreds of businesses a year and has had a long career and gone through the COVID crisis? What's a piece of advice that you would love to be able to give to all your business clients?
Martha, I think the number one thing I would say is surround yourself by great people. And what I mean by that is you're obviously going to try to hire employees as you grow that can help catapult your business and grow. But what I'm talking about there is there's really four of what was taught a long time ago. You need to have 4 key partners working with you. One is an attorney. At some point, you're going to need an attorney, whether you're starting out, filing paperwork, getting operating agreement, things like that into place. But you need to have someone that you'll be able to go to when you have questions and things that you need to be thinking about proactively instead of just trying to get out of a jam. You need to be able to bounce ideas off and trying to get a good understanding there. Certainly an insurance agent, somebody that's trustworthy there that you can really have some dialogue about how to minimize risk to your assets, your business goals and plans there is another key. One that Ryan's already mentioned and as spot on is certainly talking about with surround yourself with a CPA or accountant or somebody like that who will, of course, steer you into the right software, accounting package so you can know what's going on with your business sooner rather than later. What's scary for me and what I've seen over the years is if you started a new business this year on January 1st, and if you ended up I've seen people do this. They go through the entire year and they wait until they file their extension in 2022, October or September 2022, to find out and look at their tax returns to see what did they do in 2020. And you can't afford to do that. You've got to have timely information so that you can make adjustments day to day, month to month on that. And then lastly, I'd put in that is a valued relationship with the community banker. I mean, that is absolutely non-negotiable in my mind. Is you've got to go in and establish that. Got great people on here in this with this panel here, but a banker that you can bounce ideas off of and say, you know, I'm thinking about buying this $500,000 piece of equipment or $100,000 expansion. What do you think about this? Because we do have a great opportunity to know and see a lot of this. We like to have that dialogue in advance and say, well, here's how it's going to impact your cash flow. This is what we can see, and try to talk through what their expectations of what it's going to do to revenue and other things like that. So again, it's to me, it's surrounding yourself with great people that can help you. And of course, you know, going back to Startup Junkie, they're going to get you started all the way through.
Great, thank you, Audwin. All right, I'm getting ready to ask the same question to our last of our speakers, which is Alvin Singh with the Northwest Arkansas Kiva program. So if any of you all, I'm looking on, those of you who are still on Facebook Live with us, you can drop a question in the comments there on Facebook Live. We're monitoring that. Or if you're on with us right now, you can drop one in chat if you're on Zoom. So be thinking if you've got a question. I'm going to have Alvin answer this question, and then we'll be starting to wrap up if we don't have any questions from our still viewing audience. So Alvin, what's your, so as y'all know, Alvin and I work together with the Fba Loan program, but Alvin is also very involved in the Northwest Arkansas entrepreneur community. He has his own business. He has a portable juicer company called Juice, and he works with a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs across the country, actually. He's pretty active. So Alvin, what's a piece of advice with all of your experience and knowledge you have for small business owners right now?
Great. Well, I'm going to try to add a collection of everybody else's answers. But one word that sticks out to me, two words, is network, is really networking with the community. And even, you know, as an entrepreneur myself, as things that I can always network more of. And the other word was just continue to keep going, not being intimidated, maintaining that enthusiasm that you would about baking or car dealing, detailing, or selling the car, or, you know, doing a cleaning service. Just as much as enthusiasm you have about that, try to keep that same enthusiasm when it comes to boring conversations, like what Martha said, you know, what is your P&L, or what is your debt ratio, or, you know, don't feel intimidated by those things is what I would say. And here's the reason why, because one thing that I've learned working with this Kiva program was, so in our process of our stage, so when an entrepreneur gets approved, or let's say a 5,000 loan, and Martha's our trustee, which I didn't get a chance to mention earlier, which is very helpful, just like a private banker would be as kind of your, you know, reference or resource in a private bank. Because if you're in a city that does not have a trustee and you're trying to do a Kiva campaign where you're on your own, you know, you're telling Kiva, hey, here's all my information and this is what I would like to raise. With a trustee in it, Margaret Quest is able to give you kind of step by step, and then she presents it to Kiva, who then gives an answer back. And the reason why this is good, because when they approve it, say for 5,000, there's a period where it's private lenders only. So it's friends, what we make in the VC world call it friends and family round. And in essence, that's what we are doing even with the banks. I mean, all the banks that we're working with, your money comes from the people in the community. So, you know, that community money is what essentially loans to these businesses. And I think y'all's decision is part of that process is to find businesses that, of course, will, you know, repay it and be a good match for the community. And so with the Kiva process, when it's in this private campaign, you have a private link, and Martha and us tell them to send it to your top customers, your true fans, your friends and family, everybody who can give you $25, lend you $25 right now so that you can go live to then get the remaining amount. And we do that because we don't require collateral. We do that because some entrepreneurs may not have citizenship. They're using their tax ID as their social security number. And so, but they're running businesses. And when they're able to do this, I look at that as sort of your network. You know, how much are you enthusiastic to share to people that, hey, this is something that I want to really do to keep my doors open. I want to get another machine. I want to get a compressor for my detailing company, or I want to get another oven updated. Whatever it is, maintain that enthusiasm, just as you would if you were selling to customers. So to the entrepreneurs that are online, one of the good examples that we had is Stephanie out of Siloam Springs. And she had the first, I want to say, cash medical clinic. It's called Primary Care. And she was receiving cash payments. And she started the business in January 2020. So literally months before the pandemic, but now she's serving 400 something patients in that community. So she's needed. You may want to decide, should I do an online bookstore and sell things to Amazon and online and eBay, or should I open up a brick and mortar because my town may really need something like that? And how can I convince, the lenders and the bankers to show that this is something that I need? So I think those kind of two things, if you can combine a strong network with, being enthusiastic about what you're doing, then you have a winning success formula. And another good example of that is, again, like I said, Judy, who was a Marshall Lee's chef. Now, she got the truck donated. We couldn't lend money so that she can buy the truck, but she was able to tell the community, there was an organization that said, we like your food, whatever it takes, get it. And so that's a good way of someone speaking on, not always in their head, and I got this big idea, if only I get the money, then I can do it, but what are the people that I can talk to that can help, through that process? And so I just really find that as some jewels that I'd like to give to entrepreneurs.
All right, and we've had now a couple of questions come in, and I'll read the first one, and I'll give a little bit of an answer, and then if a couple of the lenders want to jump in, you could kind of give a little bit of an answer. The question is, how does personal credit affect business credit applications? And the answer is, when you are seeking a loan, especially from a brick and mortar bank for your business, yes, the loan will be in the name of the business and business collateral will be pledged, but your personal credit is always going to be something that has to be looked at. So banks will have different levels of requirements for the level of your credit score. So typically credit scores go from 400 to up to 850. Banks are going to have a range. They can tell you some programs, some SBA loan programs have credit score minimums. But once again, the reason you need to have a local community lender or banker is to have discussions. When I was a banker, I had someone once that had a very poor credit score, but their debt to income ratio, they had low debt and they were really doing well with their business. And there was a very specific personal reason that we could document why their credit score was so low. And so banks can make some of those decisions on their own independently of certain rules and regs because of different programs, be it an SBA backed loan or a loan that the bank makes itself through its own internal loan policies. So personal credit always matters. I don't know if someone wants to jump in and tell me a situation where a commercial loan is made and nobody ever looks at the owner's personal credit. I don't know of any. It's the whole ball of wax, and all of it matters. But it doesn't mean there are set lines where if you have this credit score right now, you're never going to get a loan for a small business. Does anybody else want to jump in with a little bit of advice on that?
I like to jump in. So one of the things that we do when we review the credit reports is just look at a potential borrower's repayment history. You know, like how have you covered your debts in the past? I've seen reports where there are, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debts, but the client has effectively managed those debts. And then I've seen other reports where they only have a few credit lines, but they have poor repayment history. So again, we talked a lot earlier about the risks that lenders take on when looking at loan packages. The credit report just shows, can we trust you to repay that loan? You know, and when your back's against the wall, you know, will you still try and maintain repayment of that debt, or, you know, will you let it go into collections and just consider not repaying it? Those are just different things that we look at when we look at credit reports.
Martha, if
Sorry.
I might just,
Yes,
I might
Audrey, go
just
ahead.
add, certainly credit report will matter in the credit request that we look at. It is very important, but I also try to do what you mentioned earlier, is just recognize that, you know, I say life happens. All of us are thrown curves, you know, throughout life, whether it's personal, pandemic, or whatever, things happen. And so I always encourage them, in a sense, to draw a line in the sand, to say, we're past this point, let's start trying to get back on track and make that first payment on time going forward. And the further that life event happens, gets further away, the less relevant it becomes. So once it's 6 months out, and then even a year out, or when you start looking down and, well, that happened 3 or 4 years ago, it certainly is still on there. It's going to show up on that credit report. But if you replaced it and worked hard to replace it with good, solid payment history on there since then you certainly got an explainable event and things that have happened. And so I don't give up. We can work together and try to come up with a plan to get you back on track.
Great, thank you, Audwin. Someone else dropped in a question that says, would crowdfunding suffice as traction for a pre-launch or pre-revenue startup? Crowdfunding's a really broad concept, so there are all different types of crowdfunders. Our Fba Loan program is a crowdfunding program. It's different than Kickstarter or GoFundMe, because Fba itself is a nonprofit entity. And that's why, like, everybody has to use PayPal, because PayPal donates its use, so there's no fees or costs. Do know my experience has been with most of the crowdfunding sites like Indiegogo and Kickstarter. There's going to be a lot of fees, like someone, and those are donations. So Fba is a loan, because we want people to build credit history by paying a loan back so they can eventually go to a SBA microlender or a bank. So a lot of the crowdfunding sites are donation sites. And so because of that, people have to pay fees and costs for them, because they are for-profit companies that want money to fund that site. So there's going to be fees and costs. And typically with those, people want something in return for their donation. So if you have a great idea for a new board game, but you need the funding to get the board game made at a small factory, then people are going to expect to get for their donation the first run of those 100 board games. So you're going to have to be ready and be able to deliver, because if you do a Kickstarter and then don't deliver the board game to everybody, you're going to get called out horrifically, and they will crash your business site telling everybody that they gave you money and they never got their board game, and they will never go away, I promise you. So but anyone who's looking, one of the things I do at least 4 or 5 times a week is just talk to people about all the lending options. On our Startup Junkie YouTube channel, I have an hour-long webinar that's recorded there about all the funding options, from friends and family and Aunt Sally all the way up to a major SBA 504 loan program through a bank. So feel free to reach out to us, and we'll help to get you some education about that. Last question we'll take, we're starting to get toward the end, is someone says, is a Dun & Bradstreet score relevant to getting business loans locally? I'll let some of the other lenders when I was doing small business lending, I didn't look at people's Dun & Bradstreet score specifically that much, more the personal loan score. Does anybody want to jump in? Do you go out and look for the Dun & Bradstreet business score for existing businesses?
I don't, and we don't talk about that in committee either.
We don't either, Martha.
Yeah, we don't either, Martha.
I think most of the time I've seen the DMB account and score become an issue is when you're looking at getting signed up in SAM, the System for Award Management, for bidding on government contracts. The DMB becomes, that account is important. You have to have that. And that's another thing. If any of you have small businesses that you think could bid on city, county, state, or federal contracts. So you have a landscaping company, and especially if it's a woman-owned or a minority-owned or a U.S. veteran-owned landscaping company, and a tornado goes through a town, they might put out for bids a government contract for new landscaping for the town. If something like that, tech, bidding for tech contracts with the government. There is the Arkansas Procurement and Technical Assistance Center of Arkansas, based in Little Rock, but we have an office in Bentonville, and we have a procurement counselor named Max Franks, and I'd be happy to connect you to Max. And Max will help you set up your DMB account. I know with government contracting that DMB number and account is an important consideration. So. All right, well, I don't see any more questions in the chat or on our Facebook Live. So I think we're going to wrap up our time, and thank you once again to our panel, to Alvin, Kevin, Bree, Ryan, Tanya, and Audwin. And thank you to everyone who's come on here. And if you take away one thing today, please do not be intimidated to go talk to a local Northwest Arkansas lender. As you can see, they're real people, they care, they're gonna give you real answers, they're gonna be honest. And I know what I like to tell people is I never say no, never, but you might get a no right now, but we're always going to give you an idea and a plan for how to pivot or to launch that business and to grow and to get ready to have anyone. This is the United States of America, and anyone who lives here has the potential to have a small business, and we will help you find that path. It might not be exactly what you want today, but I know I'll give you a plan to do what you want to do in 3 years or in a year. We can help you with that. So thank you, everyone. And have a great week.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.